Well, hello from here inside Villa Park, where Newcastle United have won 3-1 tonight, and that was like stepping back in time. I don't mean to 10 years ago when Newcastle last won here. In fact, it's been a full decade since they scored a Premier League goal here. That was like stepping back to last season. That was the Newcastle of old. Eddie Howe has just said exactly the same to us downstairs there. He said, for the first time this season, away from home, they looked like an elite team, and I would fully go along with that. And to be honest, I didn't see it coming. I said on this preview video yesterday that, I always try to be honest. I didn't fancy Newcastle to win. I'll let you into a little story. On the train on the way down, myself, Keith Downey, John Anderson, Matthew Raisback were sat amongst a big group of Newcastle fans. Among them was Mick Edmondson, the DJ at Wonderbar and owner of the Back Page as well, of course, wonderful bookshop just in the shadow of St James's Park. Now, when we got on the train, Mick said, I feel confident about this. I said, okay, fair enough, Mick. Yeah, you feel confident. By the time we got to Birmingham, 4 or 5 cans later, Mick was saying Newcastle were going to win 3 or 4-0, to which I said, no, that's nonsense. That just won't happen. You've just got to look at the performances on the road this season. Look at Aston Villa's home record. Not a chance Newcastle will come here and win by 3 or score 3 goals. To the point where me and Mick had a little bit of a wager on it. So yeah, if you do see me in New Street Station tomorrow buying cans at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's not because I've got a drink problem. It's because I owe Mick. That was the forfeit for the bet. So there you go. I was wrong and Mickey Edmondson was right, and that might, for all you guys who know him, that might be not a bad life lesson to follow going forward. No, and why was I wrong? Listen, I've got no problem at all with my pre-match, I wouldn't call it gloom, just honesty. I thought, that tonight there was a surprise. It's why there is such, I think it's why there was such a feeling of elation among the away supporters. I think it's why Eddie has come into us, and there is that joy. It's because it's the relief that, wow, they are still there. That team does still exist. The team who, from the word go, and again, I always say on these night games, you've got to form opinions pretty quickly, because 8:15, wow, what's going on with that kick-off time for all manner of reasons. I know you guys have got your issues. It means you can't get back and travel, everything else. For us, match reports, you've got to start filing on 60, 65 minutes. It's ridiculous. So anyway, you've got to start forming opinions after 60, 65 seconds. And I was sat there with my colleagues, and early on, we all said, they're going to win this. I didn't see that performance coming on the back of Fulham on Saturday. Again, my video after that game was good win, not so good performance. Now, this was both here tonight. And, from the word go, I thought they looked solid defensively. Dan Burn inside the first 5 or 10 minutes. Villa had 1 or 2 little openings, but he was there with big blocks, big headers. I thought that set the tone at the back. And then going forward, it was evident they had a game plan from the off, and that was to drop balls in behind Villa's high line. And they had 2 really willing runners in Jacob Murphy and Anthony Gordon especially. Every time he just sort of spun and went in behind Villa there. And like I say, there was that confidence in most Newcastle's away games this season. I said last year, when you went away from home, it didn't matter who they were playing, you just said they'll win, because Newcastle are better than them. It hasn't been like that this season. Even the games where, like on Saturday where they've won, you've come away with more real questions than answers going forward. Well, that there tonight, that was Eddie Howe's, what is it you guys call them? Eddie Howe's intensity mags? Well, yeah, I'm supposed to take a little bit more of a highbrow, considered analysis of a game, but yeah, Eddie Howe's intensity mags just about does it. And yeah, it was a throwback performance. How did they achieve it? Well, like I say, there was that intent from the start. They then scored the opening goal through Fabian Schär. We'll come on to the merit marks. He might feature quite highly, but just a word on Schär. He's got those goals in him. If anything, he should really score more goals. That was his first in the Premier League since the opening day of last season against Nottingham Forest. He then gets the second goal again from a corner, but they've won those corners. They won the first corner by, again, that same ball over the top where Anthony Gordon's cut in. It's deflected over the crossbar. Newcastle just looked like they were going to score every time they went forward. Shaw breaks the deadlock. He then gets the second goal. You go into the second half and they come out and you're thinking, well, Newcastle, when they've been in that position of control before, one criticism this season is I don't think they've controlled games at any point, really. That there in the second half, we'll talk about the wobble just for a moment, but they went and got the third goal. Again, playing on the break. Miguel Almiron's cross. Jacob Murphy, now, do we give him credit, or do you think he should have scored either way? He's done what on seeing the replay, I actually think it's a little bit of a tight angle. He's returned it and it goes in 3-0. Now, from that point on, yes, Newcastle started to shake just a little bit, but what did they do differently that they haven't done And what did Eddie Howe do differently? Well, they've seen a weakness. Leon Bailey's come on the right-hand side for Moussa Diaby. By the way, we've spoken a lot about Diaby. I thought he was great on the first day of the season up at Newcastle. It looked like Newcastle had missed a trick by not signing him. Based on what I've seen there tonight, why we did nothing. And the only player was worse than him at Villa was Yuri Tielemans. Someone else in Newcastle looked at and decided not to buy. Those two were among a host of poor Villa performances. They did well to make it to 63 minutes, but Newcastle made them poor. So yeah, Leon Bailey comes on, totally changes the game, and you sitting there thinking, you guys as fans and me as someone who's writing my copy, this result might just go from a 3-0 to a 3-3 very quickly here. They get that first goal back. It's a ball in behind Dan Burn. But what does Eddie Howe do? It's taken me 30 seconds to get to the question I asked of myself. He changes it. Eddie Howe's in-game management. He brings on Tino Livramento, goes to 5 at the back, and while that's barely not shut down, it means when he gets the ball, there's resistance there, rather than the easy passage he had in behind Dan Burn for that sort of 5 or 10 minute period that was a real worry for Newcastle. Eddie changes it. Newcastle are then fully in control, and they stay out the game with almost minimal fuss in the end. Although a combination of the brilliant start, Shaw's finishes, the intensity, the energy was there throughout the entire team. I just thought that was their best away performance of the season. You could even, throw it into, was it one of their best performances of the season? Certainly better than Sheffield United, because Aston Villa haven't lost here since February of last year. So to come here, given they weren't expected to get anything, and to put on that performance, not only in the isolation of this game does it speak well, it speaks well going forward. And you're just looking at the rest of the season now, they're back up into 7th, into the European places. Where can this take them? And that was Eddie Howe's message afterwards. It's one game, they've got to build on it. But based on what I've seen out there tonight, that was Newcastle United. They were back. Now, the sour note for Newcastle, of course, was Alexander Isak's injury. We were sat there in the press box, and you could just tell by the nature in which he sat down, he plonked himself on the turf. I said to my colleague straight away, he won't carry on here. Isak, Howe has just told us it was Isak's decision to come off. He said that he didn't feel he could continue. Now, Eddie said to us he hopes it is not too serious. We've heard that before, of course, once or twice now. But no, he did say the early indications are that they don't think it's too bad. But of course, they'll have to go and see tomorrow. And this is the point I've made about Isak over and over. Now, I did a podcast for the Mail today. By the way, I'll put the link to that in the description below. Half an hour of really excellent, in-depth Newcastle chat with my colleague Ian Ladyman on our It's All Kicking Off transfer podcast. Please go and have a listen to that. We really get stuck into Newcastle's non-fire sale and delve into the whys and wherefores of that. But on that, I was actually pushed, and don't shout at me for this, I was pushed for my dream January signing. Now, I turned it on its head and I said, it's not my dream signing, but if any club could have signed a player, who would I make it? I said, well, if Arsenal need a centre forward to take them to the next level, Newcastle have got a guy called Alexander Isak, who is elite, who is top draw. The only problem is, and the worry is, he doesn't play enough games in a row consistently, and you then come here a few hours later and that happens. And that is always, I think I've been consistent on this message for a while now, that while I've got two opinions of Alexander Isak, one of them is as just the most wonderful Champions League level footballer. The other is, to be that footballer, part of the deal is you've got to play, and you've got to play regularly and consistently and do it well. And Isak, his body just doesn't seem to allow him to do that, and he's gone down there again tonight. Of course, we'll await more news tomorrow before we jump to too many conclusions, but he's certainly, with a groin problem, not going to be there on Saturday. It doesn't sound like Callum Wilson's going to be available for Saturday, so that leaves Newcastle with no fit strikers now, and this is something we've flagged as a potential weakness all season. Now, the question I asked of Eddie was, would Alexander Isak's injury, coupled with Callum Wilson's prolonged, lingering absence, will that force you back into the transfer market? And he said, no, it won't be likely. They just don't have, one, the time to do that, or two, the means. He said, even if they wanted to, he just doesn't think they can sign a player without one going out. And Eddie's wish and want is to keep this squad together. A word on Miguel Almiron in just a second. So no, I think we'll go into the Luton game on Saturday, and what we'll see from Newcastle is Anthony Gordon, as he went there in the after Isak's injury. We'll see Anthony Gordon as a false nine, and that does have the potential to derail, because for all of the euphoria around Newcastle here tonight and the relief I used at the top there, it signs that they are back, and that team, that brilliant team of last season, still does exist. Well, how can it exist without a centre forward, a striker? And depending on the news on Isak, it looks like they could be looking at a couple of games at least without a front man, and that for me would be a massive concern. Now, on the flip side of that, I thought one other positive tonight amongst a host of positives was Miguel Almiron. He's had a bit of rubbish thrown his way the last week. He must have felt, I think, because the noises were so definite around Trippier and Wilson to an extension, Newcastle not wanting to sell, we weren't getting those same noises back on Miguel Almiron. And it's been my belief from the start that if there was a deal there to be done and he'd have wanted to have gone, he would have been sold. Almiron didn't want to go, he stayed. Eddie Howe wanted to keep him, and he came on there tonight, and fair play to him. He's been under the weather with illness. The illness is genuine, wasn't 100% here tonight, all of that speculation around his future, but he come on, and I thought he did very well. And it's his run, he's won the ball off Cash with a combination of him and Miley. He's broken down the left there, and a great ball to the far post, and fair play to him, because I don't think the last week would have been necessarily easy for him. Now, the male merit stars, absolutely no surprise here. The 3 goes to Fabian Schär. On the subject of £3 million, have Newcastle ever spent that relatively paltry small sum of money any better than bringing in Schär? To think, wow, he was sub under the former manager not so long ago. The 2 goals apart, Park, then we've already spoken about them. That aside, it was just a classic Schär performance, really cool. I thought him and Botman at the back, they really are. That pairing, I think Lascelles has come in and has done very well. But undoubtedly, when that 2 are together and they get a continued run, Newcastle do look like a top 4 side. And keeping those 2 fit and in tandem, that is going to be absolutely key between now and the end of the season with Newcastle. The 2 stars, they go to Bruno Guimaraes. I didn't necessarily think after the first half. I thought in the first half he was part of what was a good team display, to a man. In the second half, he really stepped up. We go back to that word, control. Newcastle's inability this season to control games. I thought he was fantastic in the second half. When a team needs a Brazil international, a player with £100 million release clause in his contract, being linked with PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, everyone else, he looked like that there tonight. I thought he looked a little bit stodgy at Fulham on Saturday. There tonight, even in the 90th minute, he was closing down Aston Villa defenders on the edge of the box. I thought Bruno was brilliant. Like I say, I used that phrase, and I used it when I was sat in this press box. He stepped up when his team needed him. And the 1 star, well, that goes to Anthony Gordon. I thought there was a few contenders for this. I thought Kieran Trippier really showed a brilliant return to form. I actually had Dan Burn in the stars for a long time during the game. I thought he really set the tone early on, as I've already mentioned. But no, Gordon, just for that willingness to run in behind, and he did not stop running. He was back there tonight to looking like the real menace, the player who has put himself on the verge of, for me, the England squad. And he needs a good, strong second half to the season to get in that squad for Euro 24 for the summer. And I just think other players as well, in a strange way, the likes of Harvey Barnes coming back, by the way. Barnes trained yesterday. I fully expect him to be on the bench against Luton on Saturday. The likes of Barnes coming back, and Murphy and Almiron having those options, it might just give Gordon the breathers he needs so that he can play like that every week. He can come off later in games, or he can miss the odd game and have a rest, because he'd run himself into the ground before Christmas and was nowhere near the player we'd seen in sort of September, October, early November. So no, that there tonight, after a little bit of a break, given the 2 weeks they've had off there, he was fantastic tonight. And lucky only to get 1 star, but it's one of those nights when you could have gone through the team really awarding stars all over the place. Martin Dubravka made 1 or 2 big saves. Come on, I might as well give them all a mention. Martin Dubravka made 1 or 2 big saves. I've already gone through the back 4. Sean Longstaff in midfield, his best performance for a long time. Again, a one who didn't stop and stepped up alongside Bruno when they needed that energy and that intensity in the second half. Louis Miley celebrated his new long-term contract with his I keep on saying this is his best performance for a long time about all of them, because it hasn't been necessarily great of late in the Premier League. So no, Louis Miley as well, be tired a little bit, but I thought was very good. Anthony Gordon we've spoken about, Alexander Isak, and Jacob Murphy. Well, I thought Jacob Murphy had a bit of a shaky start, to be honest with you, but then to be coming back in after so long, 3 months out with a shoulder problem, I thought he again, just didn't stop up and down that right-hand side. He's forced a third goal. The subs who then came on, well, Almiron, spoken about him already, and Livramento, when his team needed him to come on and solve a problem, fair play. And top marks as well, when I do these merit marks for the paper, Eddie Howe got an 8 out of 10 as well, because he was coming here tonight and all the narrative was around, that first day of the season, the 5-1 over Aston Villa, how the tables had turned and Villa and Emery were now a better outfit, a better proposition than Newcastle. But Eddie Howe just reminded everyone there tonight of his worth as a top coach, and Newcastle as well reminded everyone of their worth as a top team. Anyway, breathe, just about done. Now, the challenge now is to head back into Villa City Centre. No, it's not. It's called Birmingham, Craig. To head back into Birmingham City Centre and catch a late beer. I'm choking after talking non-stop for 15-20 minutes now. So I hope you've enjoyed my reflections, and you no doubt would have enjoyed what has gone on here tonight. A good game. Villa, to be fair to them, when they come back into their second half, they had a 5 or 10 minute spell where they look dangerous, and they're still a good side. Newcastle, I think, are still 10-11 points behind them. So can they reel them in? Well, let's see. On that evidence, why not? So thank you again for watching, guys. Please click on all the links in the description below. Please go and listen to that half hour real good Newcastle chat on its all kicking off podcast. See you again. When are we back? The end of the week, Friday morning ahead of Luton. See you then. Watch, like, subscribe, comment. I always forget that. Take care. Bye bye.